Welcome to Rolling with the Tides, navigating the waves of science and biohacking with CDJ Peppers and friends. Now grab your NAD and a cup of coffee, and let's get into it. Quick disclaimer. Everything on this podcast is for educational and research purposes only. We are not doctors. This is not medical advice. Always talk to your physician before making any health decisions. Welcome back to Rolling with the Tides. I'm Caitlin, also known as CDJ Peppers. This is where we break down peptide research and ask for better questions, all in an educational context. So whether you're new or you're part of the Pepper fam, you're in the right place, okay? So let's get into it. The man, the myth, the legend, the guy who gave us one of the greatest lines in the peptide space, you can't out-peptide a bad lifestyle. People, joining us today is none other than Coach Cam, owner of AminoWell USA, peptide educator, pepfluencer, co-host of the Roundtable, and a coach who's helped thousands navigate health, performance, and optimization the right way. Coach Cam holds a degree in exercise and motor rehabilitation, has built a thriving community of over 1,000 members through Coach Cam's Peptide Academy, and has become one of the most trusted voices helping people separate science from hype in the world of peptides. And perhaps his most important credential yet, he's officially the newest member of the Dad Club. Today, we're tackling one of the most requested topics in the health and wellness space. Peptide myth busting. So some things like, are peptides steroids? Can they replace training and nutrition? Are all peptides the same? What's real? What's marketing? And what's complete nonsense? Coach Cam is here to break it all down, cut through the noise, and give us the facts. Welcome back to Rolling with the Tides, Coach Cam.
The wife's looking at me while I'm trying to get this going. What's going on, guys? Glad to be back. I appreciate you having me back on. I'm ready to definitely bust some myths. I think we came up with quite a few, and I'm excited to kind of talk through them. So it should be a good time.
Yeah, we came up with quite a few, and then Chad came up with a couple more for our intro. So I thought those were good. Where do we want to start? Did you have one in particular you wanted to do first, or?
No, honestly, let's just let you fire off one at a time. We'll just kind of talk through them and see what we can debunk or maybe approve. Who knows?
Right. So, Mr. You cannot peptide a bad lifestyle. I like the first one they said, because this is what a lot of people don't understand. And my brother is running into this at work because he works in corrections. Are peptides steroids?
Yeah, no. Absolutely. I mean, that's probably one of the easiest ones to debunk. I mean, like that they're not at all. I mean, long story short, a short chain of amino acids that's used to replace a signal in your body that's been lost with age or dysfunction, disease, whatever the case might be, is very different from a hormone that is going to replace what your body is exogenously or endogenously producing. So like even for example, like a compound like testosterone, like not inherently a steroid, I guess. I mean, I guess you could classify it as that. When leveraged at higher doses, people would largely assume it's a steroid, but that's something that's shutting down your body's natural production. It's not endogenously being produced, and usually the levels that people are taking it at is what we would call super physiological, so it's higher than what your body would ever be able to output naturally, and in doing that it develops negative feedback loops and shut down specific processes in your body that should naturally still be online and functioning but no longer need to because those exogenous hormones are in play. Peptides don't shut down pathways, they typically, if anything, turn them back on or improve the signaling to them.
Nice. So then what about the curious case of erythropoietin?
What about it? What about it in particular?
That it's used in a fragment of it is ARA, if someone could say. You know?
Yeah, so I mean, so with ARA specifically, like, so they looked at erythropoietin and they saw all the amazing benefits of the compound. Now, obviously, like a lot of blood thickening effects, and when deployed incorrectly, like I would say in a research space, it's probably not a necessary compound by any stretch of the imagination, but all of these cell survival, anti-inflammatory, nerve regenerative injury prevention or injury recovery outcomes of erythropoietin, well, those things would be quite warm welcomed. So not we, but they find a way to essentially create a derivative of erythropoietin that has no blood thickening effects, but specifically is going to seek out those damaged, stressed out cells. And that's where ARA290 came from. It specifically not attacks, but binds to a receptor called the innate repair receptor, which is expressed not on every cell in the body, but typically on damaged or stressed cells to induce its set of healing cascades to, again, like I said, reduce inflammation or help with nerve regeneration, anti-inflammation, tissue regeneration. It's in the recovery group of compounds for sure. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
pretty cool compound.
What's another one there's a couple that are banned by WADA, which I think, you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
I'm not super familiar with the list. I used to keep up with a person that did a lot of content on like USADA and WADA and like the anti-doping and stuff for performance enhancement. And most peptides are going to be on that list. And if they're not, they will probably make their way over there when there's more information or when they become more wildly popular even in the research space. Like I mean from my understanding, I believe things like MOTS-C is obviously banned. 5-amino probably banned. I mean, most of these compounds are going to be banned because I mean, ultimately they do give you a like an enhancement. Like it is something that your body is not naturally doing. Albeit, like I think that it's a fine line that you can walk because again, if these things are kind of natural chain of amino acids that are found in the body to some capacity, maybe not the capacity that we're injecting them in, I mean, like I don't know. Like
Mm.
they are performance enhancing for sure, but I mean to the extent of an anabolic steroid, I mean you're not even close. Like nobody's going to turn into if you're familiar with bodybuilding, nobody's going to turn into Ronnie Coleman from taking growth hormone peptides. Nobody's going to turn into Ronnie Coleman from taking enclomiphene or HCG or HMG or kisspeptin. It's not going to happen. Can it make you feel better? Can it make you look better? Yes, but you're not going to turn into Ronnie Coleman, right? So there's levels to the enhancements, and peptides are not really taking you to a super physiological level in most regards.
So, then when this is the other thing that people ask me, mostly from the bodybuilding space, are peptides natty?
Okay, and that like so what even is that question, right?
I know.
Like my thing is like, okay, first off, who cares? Unless you're competing in like a tested federation, right? And like at that point, it's not about natty or not. It's is it on the ban list or is it not on the ban list? Does it really matter if it's natty or not? Like, I mean, is taking 50 grams of creatine natty? I mean, I don't know because you're not going to synthesize that much through meat sources or in your body. Like, is that considered not natural? You know what I mean? Like what like where does that I feel like that question's a younger audience question, and like if you're asking that question, you're probably too young to even be in the peptide space to begin with, in my opinion. Because again, like what does it mean? I mean, I would say like if we had to just give an answer, I would say probably not. I would say you're probably enhanced if you take peptides. Because again, like it's something that your body is not necessarily doing to that capacity. But do we see the negative health outcomes? I mean, clinically, no. Anecdotally, I'm not really seeing it. I don't know everybody in the world, but I certainly don't see people dropping down and having heart attacks or kidney failure or liver failure like they would on anabolics. Um, so I don't know. It's a fine line. I think it depends on who you ask, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like it depends on the peptide, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, there are definitely like I would say more beginner friendly, moderate, and then like definitely like your top end, like not everybody should be touching it type situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like, interestingly enough, I kind of think that secretagogues are natty because you're stimulating your own GH. It's
Right.
not
Well,
exogenous.
yeah, and so those would be ones that I think people would be like controversial about. Like, well, it's like growth hormone is like because everybody knows about HGH, exogenous growth hormone. They're like, well, that's definitely not an addy, that's anabolic. And yeah, it is. Like you're taking yourself to super physiological levels that you would never achieve naturally. I get it. And even with like a growth hormone compound, like you're not really going above what your body would naturally produce because your body has built-in brake pad mechanisms. Somatostatin specifically is the hormone that essentially is the brake pad for growth hormone. So as growth hormone creeps higher and higher, your body releases more somatostatin to essentially put the brake pad on growth hormone to not elevate any higher, right? But even still, like with a growth hormone secretagogue, you can achieve higher growth hormone, a higher IGF-1 than your body would ever be able to naturally produce. So again, it is like that kind of fine. It is that fine line. Again, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's like I wouldn't say that it's not natty. There's ways that you can naturally increase your growth hormone pulses without even taking a growth hormone secretagogue. But I mean, how is that any different, right? Like a health supplement. What if testosterone was super bioavailable orally and you just took it and you could buy it at Walmart? Like, would you consider that to be natty or not? You know, that's it. Again, it depends on who you ask for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. But that's the speaking to the youngins while we're here, um, let's talk about the youngins in the space and the whole ascending and the looks maxing and the summer shred stuff.
Yeah, run through that for me real quick because I know that there's probably like 5 or 6 of them. So let me just make sure that we're both on the same page with what's in that one. Is that testosterone, CJC, ipamorelin, and
Yeah,
is there something
and
else in there
Retta,
too? And Retta.
Retta. Yeah.
I mean, okay. Like, so first off, the younger audience, like, they long story short, there's probably not many of them watching this. But anyways, they like you're not you don't need to be in this space yet. Like you don't need to be here yet because you're so young. Your hormones are peaking, your growth hormone levels are skyrocketing. Like you can drive the most performance out of your natural body right now going through puberty, getting to become a young adult in your early 20s. Like you don't necessarily need like all these different peptides. Could you leverage them when you turn 18 and you're an adult? That is your decision to make. Do I think that it's necessary? No. Can it help people? Yeah. And so it's the same thing with anabolics, in my opinion. Like if somebody has a mindset of like, I want to become Mr. Olympia, well, the unfortunate reality of that is one, you got to have some amazing genetics, which is a whole different topic for a different discussion, but you also have to have the worth ethic, drive, as well as the resources available to you to get to that position. And so when it comes to the peptide space, like when somebody turns 18, they're a legal adult. I'm not inherently against them starting on compounds, but they have to do it for the right reasons, right? Like, is your nutrition good? Is your workout performance good? Do you take care of sleep? Do you drink alcohol and smoke? If you do, stop, because one, you're not even legal to do it, but just stop doing that to your body to begin with. Like, are you actively trying to get the most from your body, or are you just leveraging a compound because some dude on TikTok told you that you're going to look tan, shredded, and beautiful, right? And so it's all about like with most things in life, it's all about intention. Like what is the reason that you're doing something? That typically implies like the actual reason behind everything. So my thought process is like if you're 18 and you're wanting to get into the space, educate yourself first. Take a couple years, maximize your natural potential with nutrition and training and sleep and health supplementation, and learn about your body. As you and I know, and every other actual educational influencer understand, and everybody watching, there is so much complexity to the human body that I could study for the rest of my life and I will never understand all of it, right? So long story short, you don't have to understand everything, but you should understand a lot of what you're getting yourself into prior to ever putting something into your body, right? Even if it is something as benign as a peptide, I still think it's worth it, especially when you're young. Take the time to really develop yourself before you just jump into something because some dude on TikTok is a really good salesman, right?
Mm,
Yeah.
mm, yeah. And so you kind of touched on this already in that answer, which was really good. But can they replace training and nutrition?
Yeah, I mean that's the other concept is like I still see questions all the time on my live streams of like what can I take because I don't have time to exercise, or does this like will this help me preserve muscle if I'm not able to get to the gym? And I'm like I like most of the time I don't even answer the questions, or I just get genuinely upset. Like I don't yell at people, obviously I'm not a confrontational person, but I am like I don't want to answer your question because you're asking the wrong question. Like
Mm,
you are trying to find a solution to a problem that only your lifestyle can address, right? Like like a replacement for exercise. I mean, yeah, cool. Motsy is an exercise mimetic, but it doesn't change the fact that you need to get up and hop on a stairmaster or go do some resistance training or just go on a walk around your neighborhood park. Like movement is never going to be replaced by an exercise mimetic. There's no single diet pill that's going to replace whole foods. Nothing is going to replace the actual need for sleep. it's not going to happen. These things, like, if you look at peptides as nothing more than a supplement, what does the word supplement even mean? Well, it's not meant to be the pillar. It's meant to supplement your pillars, your lifestyle, right? It's a supplement. It's not a lifestyle. It's not a pillar. It's not a go-to. It's not the standalone thing that drives results. You have to have your systems in place for results to be driven in the first place. Otherwise, you don't really go anywhere. You know what I mean? Peptides are not going to significantly alter performance if you're not putting work in.
Right. They're a tool,
That's
not
exactly. It's a tool.
not the destination.
Yep.
Um, that kind of like the question you see say hearing people ask about it in the lives. One of the questions that people ask me about in lives that drives me absolutely bonkers is about the stall.
Yeah.
Eh,
Yeah.
it's like I, k- I kind of feel like it's a myth. Like it's it's your body catching up to the compound,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. So stalls are a really, really touchy one for a lot of people because 95% of people that don't well, let's not even put a percentage on it. People that stall on their progress, most of them don't understand why they stalled in the first place. So, for example, we see a lot, like, in this with stalling, we see a lot of this with GLPs, right? So people use a compound at a dose and it's working and it's working and it's working, and then it stops, and it stops for, like, I've heard some people say, I haven't lost weight in 8 months. And I'm like, okay, so you've had 8 months of stalling and you haven't made a singular adjustment, right? And they're like, no, I've just increased my dose. Guys, here's the thing. When you stall, going to a higher dose is not going to move the needle for you, especially if you're on a compound like tirzepatide specifically, because it doesn't have any arm, like any agonism, the GLP-1, GIP, and then glucagon from Retta. It doesn't have anything that increases energy expenditure or directly burns fat, right? So tirzepatide in itself is a really, really good suppression compound that has good blood glucose handling, improvements in insulin sensitivity, all those things. And that's great. However, what happens is your machinery is slowed down, right? So I think I've said this on the last podcast. We talk about our metabolism being like a fire with logs in it. Over time, when you're in a deficit, it's like removing logs from the fire, and then obviously the flame's going to dwindle down. When you hit a stall, well, it's sort of like you pulled all the logs out and the fire is just idle, right? Maybe it's not, you haven't removed all the logs. That's a bad analogy, but you've at least moved enough out to where you're no longer able to stay warm, and you're in the winter, you're in like northern Canada and you're cold, okay? You're stalling. Okay, so how do you fix a stall? Well, it's not increase my dose. That's the last question asked, because remember, a peptide is merely a tool. Okay, it's not the main thing. So if you're stalling, it's probably something bigger than the peptides that you're taking, and it is 99 times out of 100. It is your lifestyle once again. Oh my gosh, super boring. That's unfortunately the reality of the situation. For people that are stalling, it is probably because they have under-eaten food for too long of a period of time. Okay, because what happens when you undereat food chronically is your metabolism adapts. Our bodies do such a good job of maintaining homeostasis. They want to find an equilibrium. Okay, that's what your bodies do. Okay, and how it does that is it downregulates processes that are associated with your metabolism. So T4 is your inactive thyroid hormone, and T3 is your active thyroid hormone. When your body senses energy crisis day after day, month after month, maybe even year after year, your body stops converting T4 into T3 readily and your metabolism tanks. There's more to that as well. Leptin, which is your hunger hormone, also significantly decreases, and this is going to decrease energy expenditure and your thermogenic rate as well. You're not going to burn as many calories. You also, without even realizing it, you decrease something called non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is all subconscious movement, so you don't even realize that you're no longer doing it. All my hand fidgeting that I do on my live streams, my walks, standing instead of sitting, all spontaneous movement that you don't even realize that you're doing, that significantly decreases, and that equates to thousands of calories every single week. Hormones become dysregulated, deficiencies set into place, and your body literally goes into emergency crisis mode and stops burning fat and stores it. So then you don't make progress. You have stalled. So literally one of the easiest things that you can do is just implement caloric refeeds. So if your maintenance is 2,500 calories and you've been eating at 1,500, which is a huge deficit, you should never do that. But if you're eating at 1,500, you've been doing it for a long time, and you've stalled, you probably just need to eat more food for a little bit to get your metabolism going again, right? So this is where we talk about like structured refeeds. And somebody's like, well, what is that? It's easy. You're literally just eating more calories than your maintenance, or eating at least at maintenance to restore metabolic processes. T4 to T3, leptin signaling improves, non exercise activity thermogenesis goes back up, hormone signaling improves, deficiencies now become no longer deficient, and your body functions better. So that's all a stall really is. Increasing your dose of a GLP that causes more suppression and causes you to eat less food is not going to make you lose weight unless your goal is to quite literally starve your body of nutrients. And then at that point, you're no longer losing fat, you're losing weight. And weight and fat are different. With weight loss, you can lose lean mass, which can be things like bone mineral density and
Hmm.
muscle mass, for example. Fat is what you want to be losing. And when you go into a deficit too long, hair loss becomes a problem. You're cold all the time. You have the worst fatigue in the world. You lose your muscle, your glutes, bye bye. You lose your hair. Everything gets worse, right? And you're not losing fat in the process. So then you develop this, like, what do they call it? Like a skinny fat bod, right? Where you're like
Yeah.
really skinny, but everything that you have on your body is still fat, right? Like you have body fat with no muscle. And then you're like, well, dang, I lost my entire figure.
Hmm.
That's why. So that's a stall in a nutshell. That's a long explanation, but like that's a good one to talk through because so many people experience stalls, and the answer is typically just abundance. Like give yourself a little bit of grace and a little bit more food, and things will start moving in the right direction again in most
Yeah.
cases.
Yeah. Yeah. The funny thing is when Will was here the first time, he gave me this figure. He had tracked his calories in MyFitnessPal for 30 days. And it said, congratulations, you're in the top 2% of users. So
Right.
he was like, the top 2% of users, and all I did was track for 30 days. You know what that tells me? That everyone who tells me they're in a stall and they're tracking their calories on live, 9 out of 10 of them are lying to you.
Yeah.
And they're just too
Absolutely.
embarrassed to say it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the problem as well. Like people don't want to look any deeper into the situation. They just want to think, what compound can I take to fix it? Like guys, I'm in the peptide space. I'm all for utilizing them, but I always have preached before I ever learned about peptides, lifestyle is always going to win. You have to understand the basics. It's the boring stuff, but the boring stuff always wins. The analogy KISS, keep it simple, stupid, that works. Like that genuinely works because before these things ever existed, what did people do? They could gain weight and build muscle and lose fat. These people, they could do it, but it's because they had to rely on themselves and their lifestyle, right? And so if you're not making progress, I encourage you to look a little bit deeper into your situation and realize it's probably not the selection of compounds you're taking, but the things that you're not doing to complement the compounds that you are taking, right? It's a lifestyle issue through and through. And something as simple as tracking your calories and tracking your steps, two simple things. Get a wearable. It doesn't have to be an Apple Watch. It could be a freaking Fitbit. I'm pretty sure those things are really cheap these days. A step
Mhm.
tracker, you probably get one off TikTok Shop for dirt cheap. Find something to track your steps. Even your phones do it at this point, and just track your calories, right? And that's easy to do. Like you explained, Will, with MyFitnessPal. Chronometer is another super simple one to use. There's even ones where you can like I'm pretty sure Chronometer, you can scan a barcode and it automatically applies it to the, like, they make it so easy now that there's literally no reason to not be able to do it. And then once you've done it for a while, if you want to just like eyeball things and just like, you'll probably be a much more in tune with like ratios and sizes because people would be so surprised at how little they're actually putting into their body or how much they're putting into their body. And like, more data is always going to give you better information. Like, who's going to sit there and say that tracking your calories is not a good idea, or that counting your steps is not a good idea? Like, I don't understand. More data equals more information to make change. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. And like the myth that people think that they they don't need to worry about what they eat because they're on a GLP
Yeah, like,
is
oh, like the people that like go and eat like a slam a whole pizza because like it doesn't matter because I'm just gonna wake up shredded tomorrow, like stuff like
right.
that.
Right. Or
Yeah,
like even if they were just like they're like, I used to eat a whole pizza, now I eat 4 slices.
right, right.
I'm gonna lose weight. You know what I mean? Or like they eat whatever they want without any type of like there has to be a thoughtfulness
Yeah,
to
intention every time. Yeah,
yeah.
you're right. You're absolutely right. Like 100%. There has to be like my thought process is like how can somebody sit there on the surface and say that pizza is equivalent to something like steak, right? Or something that's more like linearly, like, macronutrient like similar, right? Whatever the case might be. But how can someone look at a piece of pizza and say that looks like that's the equivalent of a steak and potato in terms of calories? Like calories are cool, macronutrients are great, but micronutrients are what actually matter, right? Like anybody can follow a super simple macronutrient plan. And like I could go and probably spend the day at McDonald's and stay within a specific boundary that I need to stay within. But do you think that food is as nutritious as whole foods selected from the outer side of the grocery store? Like, no, it's not going to be. Micronutrients are so massively important. I finally think that people that are kind of dialed into nutrition are coming to the realization of how important micronutrients actually are. Like in my videos that like I talk about micronutrients all the freaking time. Like people are like, well, what do I need to take to make Motzi work better? And I say blah 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 blah. And it's always some micronutrients or cofactors or things like that that genuinely make a massive difference. And people are finally starting to realize that it's not just about macronutrients. Like, yeah, every once in a while enjoy 4 slices of pizza, but like that should not be your standard. That should not be your reality. And to the people that say that like healthy food doesn't taste good, make it taste good. You can make
Mhm.
it taste good. And I guarantee you, even in making it taste good, you might add a few extra calories to it to make it taste better, but it's probably still healthier than 4 slices of pizza or having a milkshake. And again, I'm not demonizing bad food because I myself indulge in bad food typically once a week to keep myself human because we are humans. But like it
Mhm.
shouldn't be your standard. Like I think if you really want to make meaningful progress, you have to upgrade your standards a little bit and want more for yourself, right? And nobody can really teach that to you or make you do that. That's kind of a decision you have to make for yourself. But like you have to want more for yourself, especially if you're to spend hundreds of dollars on peptides. Like do better for yourself if you're going to spend all the money on peptides, right? Better nutrition,
Mhm.
better health supplementation, better sleep regimen, do your blood work, the boring things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, you mentioned Motzi and what you tell people when they come to you asking for how to make Motzi work better. So why not touch on the myth around Motzi that it just gives you energy? It just gives you
Right.
energy.
Right. So like so you'll see content and again it's like the difference between like an influencer content versus like educational content and so you see Motzi and people are like oh it's an energy peptide and like yeah it can be downstream like with the results that it drives certainly can drive amazing energy and like people will tell you I got amazing energy and then somebody else will tell you I felt horrible and so you wonder, is that person not able to use Motzi or is it because there's something else going on? And it's probably because there's something else going on. Motzi is not an energy peptide. Motzi is a stress peptide, right? The whole compound is literally designed to drive catabolic pathways, AMPK. That is a catabolic pathway. It's an energy crisis pathway, a low energy, low calorie pathway. It senses to your body, hey, we don't have enough of what we need, so we have to start breaking things down within the body to essentially keep up with demand. And so that doesn't sound like an energy peptide to me. That sounds like a peptide that is breaking things down. Now, the way that Motzi works is it's going to essentially create that process, but then in stressful environments, and this is why we talk about pairing it with like saunas or cold tubs or exercise, resistance training, or even cardio. I would say resistance training is probably the last one you should do. We can talk about why in here in just a minute, but any sort of stress and fasting, right? Fasting is obviously a stressful environment as well. And so when you pair it with that, Motzi is able to translocate or travel into the cell's nucleus and modulate genes that are associated with metabolic adaptation and upregulate antioxidant pathways and things of that nature. So Motzi, when it's in a stressful environment, is able to go into the mitochondria and force change, right? So the equivalent I always make, and this one hits home for a lot of people that are like, huh, I don't get it. Think about going into the gym and training your muscles. When you train your muscles, the only way that they can get bigger and stronger is by genuinely pushing them against weights. Like you have to actually force action on the muscles to break them down, right? You don't build muscle in the gym, you recover, you break them down in the gym, then you recover afterwards. It's the same exact thing for your mitochondria. So when you're in the gym, you're breaking down your muscle, you go home and you eat nutritious food that helps you recover, and then you adapt. MOTS-c is the exact same way for your mitochondria. Stress compound forcing adaptation on the mitochondria or stressing the mitochondria out that your mitochondria then have to recover from. And then with that recovery comes adaptation, right? And so that is where the energy is noticed and abundant. Now, where people do get acute energy from MOTS-c is typically when they've had dampened AMPK signaling. So these are people that are kind of stuck in like a surplus mode, right? Like they always have energy abundance, which is not a good thing. You don't always want to have energy abundance because that means that you're also not using the pathways that are able to improve adaptive responses. So if you're someone that's really, really energy abundant, then signaling AMPK, which is again an energy crisis, it feels really alerting and really energizing because that's a pathway that's been effectively downregulated for Lord knows how long, right? So that's why some people feel it acutely. But MOTS-c's real benefits come from weeks to months of use with proper recovery tools in place, right? So think of MOTS-c as like a workout for your mitochondria. And the only way that you actually get the benefits is if you push the mitochondria hard enough in that workout, but then equally recover from that situation as well. Another thing that I always say is like, you're not going to go into the, like, let's say I want a bigger chest. I'm not going
Mhm.
to go in the gym and train chest 7 days a week because I will never recover from that. Right. And now that's not to say that you can't take MOTS-c daily. Those are two different situations. But what I'm saying is, long story short, if you can't recover from the stress, then that just equals more stress and that makes you feel worse as opposed to better. So that's logically why somebody, when they take MOTS-c, doesn't actually feel better. They feel worse. And then there's obviously, like I said, like minerals and cofactors and things necessary to kind of give a baseline to your mitochondria so MOTS-c has something to work off of, right? Because it increases demand, and for demand to be met, you have to increase supply. So
Mm. Yeah, yeah. And the same goes for when NAD doesn't work, you know? It's,
exactly.
uh,
Yeah,
it's
because
just
NAD plus is literally like adding more logs to the fire. It's taking more electrons to the electron transport chain, which is how your mitochondria make energy, your mitochondria make ATP. And so if you're not able to handle all of those electrons, then what ends up happening is they leak out the sides of the electron transport chain and they react with oxygen, and then they create reactive oxygen species, and the reactive oxygen species build up in excess and cause oxidative stress, which damages mitochondrial function further. And high levels of chronic oxidative stress is linked to every disease in the book: cancer, neurodegenerative diseases, metabolic diseases, cardiovascular diseases, inflammation issues, everything, right? Oxidative stress is not always the root cause, obviously, but it's always there to some degree, right? So NAD plus has to be handled as well. If you have a broken system, adding more NAD plus to a broken system is going to equal probably more damage in a lot of cases.
because peptides, and this is I don't think this is a myth, but they exacerbate the situation in which they enter.
Exactly. Yeah. They are a product of their environment, right? So they're like, for some of them they can correct a dysfunctional environment, and for some of them they have to have a better environment to operate within, right? And that's what there's so much variability in the space. Like for example, like something like BPC never really would be a net negative in a bad environment. It would really only be a positive, but you still have to properly support BPC with proper macro micronutrients and substrates for recovery, right? So it's not just like you can take a peptide in a bad environment and it's like a fix all, right? KBV might be an example of one that helps a lot just because it shuts down overactive inflammation, and that's useful. But again, if you don't address the root cause of the inflammation, then you're essentially using KBV as a band-aid, and you need to start figuring out why you have this chronic inflammation so then you can restore it, right? And so that's kind of the whole thing is like peptides do help with one part of the situation, but they're not like everything, right? And you have to
Mhm.
be able to figure out what's going on so you can see strategically where a peptide fits in to help that situation.
Yeah, you can't peptide in a vacuum.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't work like that. Body's too
Mm-mm.
complex to peptide in a vacuum.
Mhm. Mhm. Um, oh,
Goodness.
Cookie. Cookie. Relax, girl. Okay, we heard you. Cookie. Touch.
That's the guard dog.
Yeah. Oh, you have a dog?
I don't. We don't
Oh.
have dogs.
Oh.
No. I was saying it was a guard dog. No, I think I
Well,
yeah,
Garda, I
yeah,
thought you
yeah,
sounded like
yeah,
our dog.
yeah, no, no, we don't
Yeah.
have one. We don't have one.
Oh. But, okay. So Sorry. Thank you for interrupting us, Cookie. That was pretty funny. Um, so let's see. Let's see. What do we want to talk about next? Ooh, how about this one? This is a goodie. Peptides are not FDA approved.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this one a lot, and like the only bounce back I give is like, dude, a lot of things are not FDA approved. Like the health supplements you're putting into your body, the pre-workout supplements that you're using every single day, the protein powders, like there are so many things that are not FDA approved. So that's like that logic never is held up with me ever, and I never really even give it time of day because it's just like, okay, like dyes are FDA approved and they're in kids candy. I mean everybody's candy. Like I literally said this. You can go to Walmart right now or probably any grocery store probably and go to the candy section and buy glow in the dark candy and your kids can consume glow in the dark candy. Like why is candy glowing in the dark and why is it edible and why are we putting it into our bodies? Yet we're worried about amino acid chains. Like, come on, the logic is just like it's so flawed. And like the problem is the people that even fight that in the first place are again what is the saying? I always say this as well. You can't reason someone out of an opinion that they didn't reason themselves into in the first place. Meaning that person had a predetermined thought in their mind and they were not going to change it regardless of what you said. They just wanted to come in there and piss you off or say something, right? And it doesn't matter what you tell them or what kind of logic you bring to the table. Their mind is predetermined and they do not care, right? And like that's the only way that I see those people is like if you are literally trying to tell me that the FDA is is the end all be all of health, I'm sorry to tell you, you're barking up the wrong tree. It's not happening, right? So that's my thought. I don't put too much stock into it.
I usually bounce back with, all right, so then tell me about Agrifta. Tell me about Samorlin. Tell me about all the GLPs
That's
you've
true.
heard
There
of.
are some
Tell
that
me about
actually are approved,
SS31.
right?
Yeah,
Right.
tell me
Yeah.
BPC 157 and
Right.
compounding pharmacies. Like,
Right.
please,
Yeah.
please tell me. Those is that a different FDA?
Right.
Did they no? No?
Yeah, that's also the thing is like a lot of these and a lot of times like molecules are not going to get FDA approved because it's very hard to patent and approve amino acids, right? Like it's very hard to do it. So it's a lot of times they will never actually get FDA approved. And the other part of it is when a compound actually seeks FDA approval, they typically have to get approved for a very specific endpoint. For example, SS31 can probably be prescribed off label now, I would imagine, but it was originally approved to treat not to treat, but to manage Bar syndrome, which is a end stage genetic disease that will never go away, and SS31 will never fix it. So like it's approved, right, and it's used, but it's not going to fix the situation. Agrifta, which is tesamorelin, it's approved for HIV associated lipodystrophy, right? Like these compounds are very specific endpoints that the average population doesn't deal with and is never going to deal with. So, for example, a compound like MOTS-C, unless it became the primary treatment for treating type 2 diabetes, then it's not going to get FDA approval. And with GLPs on the market, is MOTS-C ever going to ever seek approval? Probably not. Now, I mean, there's an analog called CB4211. It's a derivative analog of MOTS-C that's supposed to be more stable and potent. Who knows when the research phase will get it? But long story short, like it's in human clinical trials right now, but that doesn't mean it's going to get all the way through and then be approved. And if it is approved, it'll be approved for something really random, right? Not just treating obesity. That's why compounds don't always seek approval. Plus, it's again very hard to actually approve it to patent amino acids. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Because when they decide whether or not, and by they I mean pharmaceutical companies, they're going to pursue the three phases and hundreds of billions of dollars of research
it's
and
also expensive.
development
Yes,
into a drug. It's like um it's like playing darts.
right.
You need a bullseye
Yeah,
for it to
you
get
do.
approved.
Yeah,
You
you
need
do. Well, and it's also like you have to understand, like if it does cost hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars to actually run clinical trials and get this to market, like you have to have an audience large enough to recoup your investment. Like these companies, pharmaceutical companies, at the end of the day, guys, are businesses. Like and a business is not in the market of just helping people. They're in the market of maybe helping people, but also making profit because they have people that they are employing that have to earn money. So like if a business is not profitable profitable in a product, then a business goes under. So if they can't approve a compound, or they don't want to approve a compound because it's so freaking expensive, then it's not going to get approved, right? It's just simply not going to actually ever get approved. So there's so many reasons why the whole FDA argument just like doesn't hold up. But again, the people that even bring that up anymore at this point, they're not gonna, they don't care what we have to say about that. They really don't. They're just saying it to kind of piss somebody off, I think, honestly.
Well, the other funny thing that is that made me think of was just because you're getting a COA from a research company, you still don't know what you're getting.
Yeah. That one's interesting to me as well, because it's like, I like, now being the owner of a company, understanding how freaking expensive it is to 7x test products. Like, I mean, one, you're not faking it. Two, like, it's verifiable. Three, like, 7x testing is so much more documentation than any other non-FDA approved or even FDA approved medication is getting. Like, so for example, there's Novo Nordisk. They're the company that makes Sema and Cagrilintide. And so they actually got, I always forget what the actual um like warning it is, or whatever it is. They got a fine basically for having unsterile environments where they were producing GLPs. And it was like the highest degree of fine that they could possibly get. And you're talking about a pharmaceutical lab producing GLPs that people are sticking into their bodies every single day. And they got like one of the worst fines that you could get from the FDA. And then you have people scrutinizing companies for 7x testing and then not adding fentanyl testing on top of it. And you're like, dude, like, there is more testing in the research space than there is pretty much anywhere else. Like 7x testing, we're looking at net purity or net contents, purity, ID, conformity, heavy metals, endotoxins, sterility. Like, dude, that is comprehensive as it gets. Like, what more could you got? What more could you ask for, right?
Yeah. So the funny thing too, people like, well, they don't test every vial.
Right.
Well, you can't test every vial because once you test it, it's garbage.
Right.
Number one. Number two, the stuff you get from the pharmacy, they don't test every vial of that either.
Exactly. Like, if they tested every capsule or every injectable, then you wouldn't be able to use it because it would have been wasted in testing. Like, the vials that we get tested are used. You don't get those back. They're gone. Like, if we do conformity testing where you test 3 vials per batch, like, all 3 of those vials are just gone, right? Like, you don't get those. We don't sell those. They're gone. That's just like cost of doing business situation. But like, that is, again, that doesn't hold up either, because like you said, not every single pill that you're using is being tested, right? Like, the lettuce that has E. coli that you're about to put into your body, like, that is not being tested, but you just trust it and you're just putting it to your body. Like, I mean, come on, like, wait, like, there has to be some sort of like, there's got to be some giveth and taketh, and like, everybody wants to just taketh, right? And so I don't know. It's a crazy situation in my opinion. Like, there's like, the research space has never been more. Obviously, some companies are probably bad actors, but it's never been more like, hey, look at exactly what we got going on in here. Like, we're presenting all the data and information right to you guys, and yet some people still just aren't happy. And it's like, if that's you, then you don't belong in the space, and that's okay, right? Like, that's totally fine. This is not going to be for everybody, and that's fine, right? Like, there's never anything that's for everybody. Some people are always going to have something to say about something. So,
Hmm. Peptides, they're
yeah,
not for everybody.
not for everybody. I mean, right? Like, it's that simple. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah,
just like some people don't like water. I don't know how you couldn't like water, but it's not for everybody.
right.
Some people just don't drink it. They have to have those flavor enhancers in there, and that's cool. I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
Love it. Yeah,
sure.
whatever.
Hydrate. Hydrate
Exactly.
however you
Yeah.
do. Live
Yeah.
your life.
Hmm.
But there was like a funny video that Hack made that was pretty genuine, but people I think thought he was kidding. He's like, some people just don't belong in the peptide space. Like,
Yep.
please don't do peptides.
Right.
Like, if you're coming
Yeah.
into my live, talking to me in units, asking about, I'm paraphrasing wildly right
No,
now of
I,
what
I've, I,
he's,
yeah, I remember the video. It's, yeah, he's, finish your thought. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Talking to me in units, asking how to mix the stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you don't belong in the peptide space. That's no.
There are people that need certain levels of hand holding that is like genuinely concerning, because like, And again, I'm never one to turn somebody away because if like
Same.
if I could help somebody change their life, like I really want to help that person do it. But there is also certain like a point of like diminishing returns where like I genuinely don't have the time in the day to teach you the difference between a microgram and a milligram and a milligram and a unit and a milliliter and a like I don't have the time to do that, right? Which is why I have guides and you probably have guides and Hacksmith has guides and everybody has a guide on it because it's like that has to just become like universally understood, right? And so if you don't know how to release negative pressure from your vial and then your syringe keeps filling up and you don't know what to do and you don't know how to get the vial out, like you gotta figure it out, right? Like some things are just you just gotta figure some things out on your own, and the like that's the thing with a lot of things in life. Like you can't have somebody hold your hand 24/7, 365 unless you pay them a pretty penny, right? Like if you want somebody to hand walk you through everything, you better have the money to back it up because that's somebody's time that you're wasting, and you have to understand that like time is money for these people. Like we're all trying to feed our families and run businesses and help people, and like long story short, like Hacksmith is hitting the nail on the head there. If you're missing the basics, either dig into it yourself or hire somebody that's willing to work with you. But like don't go into somebody's DMs and ask them what is a microgram versus a milligram versus a unit versus a milliliter, because that is a Google search. That is a
Mm-hmm.
Google search. You can Google that and it will give you a very good explanation. Right. It's just the basics, just basics.
Or
Simple
my
stuff.
favorite are the DMs where it's like, can you tell me the dose of GHK in units? And I'm like,
You're like
no.
you're like, it's anywhere from 1 to 10,000.
Right, right.
Like
It's like,
it's a
first of all,
million. It's a
first of
million.
all, this is TikTok, and I'm not risking my ability to message on this account for your lack of research.
Right, right.
Like,
Because
I
again,
worked too
that's a
hard.
simple Google search. Like
Yeah.
it is like that information, like because again, well, first off, I get your question. It's not even tracking, right? Because GHKCU is not units, it's milligrams or micrograms.
Hmm.
It can never be units. It will never be units. The amount that you take per unit is a different story, but you're not taking GHK copper in units, right? So that part, I think I can see where some people like when you get thrown into the space and there's micrograms and milligrams and units and milliliters all at once. I see how that's confusing, but you do just have to do a simple Google search and you can separate them and realize that one is volume and one is the actual raw powder or the powder itself, right? And then you just understand that there's a certain amount of units per microgram or milligram based off of how I mixed it. And there's calculators for it, there's guides for it, there's videos, although I think most of them probably get taken down. They exist. It's there. There's information everywhere. You just got to look. You know what I mean?
I made a video about it. It was not taken down on an old account. The account got taken down, but then I reposted the video recently because Sean reminded me it existed, and I
Ah,
made a mnemonic for people, a mnemonic device to
nice,
remember.
nice.
MG, this stuff is powdery. ML, L is for liquid alone.
Wow. Wow. That's
Wait,
nice. See,
wait,
that kind of stuff helps people learn. Like it
yeah,
genuinely does. Like some people, they have the mind to that for that kind of stuff. It's a great way to learn.
yeah.
There's many ways
And
to learn, and if that's how it helps you, that's wonderful.
yeah, I always did stuff like
Yeah,
that when I was
yeah,
going to school.
yeah.
MCG, C, this dose is small, and U is for you suck, because units confuse everyone.
Right. That's good. I like that.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
wonderful. That
So
teaching.
that is just a quick little, it's like poem, if
Yeah.
you
No, I
will.
love it. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a peptide poem.
It's a
It's probably the first one.
the first peptide poem
Yeah, it's really
teaching
good.
people how to measure. Um, Okay, so let's see, where are we? There's no long-term research. S- oh God, this one. Stacking GLPs. God, this gets me
Man,
so
this one's
annoyed.
gotten like really, really popular. Like I thought we talked about this. Like I thought I made content on this like a month or two ago, and it's like ramping back up. But I think like the space is cyclical because like new people come into the space like every day, and then they start regurgitating content that has like no validity behind it, and then like new video. Like I have remade videos. I never like repost the same video that I made because like I like to dig even deeper than I did prior to. But like I've
Mhm.
made videos that I've made in the past, right? Like don't get me wrong, I've definitely covered things over and over and over again, but it's because new people come to the page and they're genuinely wanting to learn. So I don't ever have a problem with remaking stuff. But this one probably takes the cake because my thought process behind this is like, why would you ever stack two GLPs? And people are gonna say, well, I need more suppression. I need more suppression, right? Like Retta alone doesn't do it. So can I take terzeptide, or can I take 15 milligrams of terzeptide and then introduce 1 milligram of Retta? I'm like, what is that gonna do for you, right? Because like we know, like I've made videos on this, like with glucagon receptor agonism, like at the barrier entry dose, it does increase energy expenditure and it does increase lipolysis and hepatic fat oxidation and all those great things, but it's a dose dependent response. So why would you take 15 milligrams of terzeptide and then only 1 milligram of retatrutide if you're trying to break a stall or you're trying to get more suppression or whatever the case might be? Stacking two GLPs. This is what I've said. It's only okay if you quite literally are leveraging low doses of both and using it with a proper lifestyle. Again, like I said earlier at this in the beginning of this podcast, intention is everything. How you use them is genuinely what matters. But if you're somebody that is like stalling, like you're on 15 milligrams of terzeptide and it's no longer working for you and you're no longer feeling suppressed, and then you think adding retatrutide on top of that is a good idea, you are going you're digging your hole so much deeper. Like you're out of here. You're gone. You can't do that. It's not going to work. There's a reason that like when you go to a doctor, they won't prescribe you more than 15 milligrams of terzeptide, and there's a
Right.
reason that retatrutide is capped at 12 milligrams. It's because you shouldn't need to go higher than that. You shouldn't, right? And for some people, well, I'm different. Yeah, you probably are different than me, and I'm different than Caitlin, and everybody's different from each other. But like 15 milligrams of terzeptide with retatrutide, working that dose up is absolutely absurd. It just genuinely is, right? And if you're not making progress on the compound, but you did originally, that's a clear indicator that it's not you needing to take more. It's that you need to fix your lifestyle so the compound starts working for you again. And we talked about that, how to break a stall. So
Mhm.
watch that part twice, maybe 3 times to really get it down. But stacking two GLPs is just like one of the biggest things I'm against because it's redundancy. And I don't like redundancy, especially when there's other pathways that you can agonize for suppression. Cagrilintide, for example, or eloralintide. It's an amylin receptor agonist. Cagrilintide is an amylin receptor agonist and a calcitonin receptor agonist. There's a new GLP coming to the market, the quintuple. It's GLP, GIP, glucagon, amylon, calcitonin. It's literally retatrutide and cagrilintide mixed together, and it's appetite suppression through different pathways, which is way more synergistic and just by default a better option. And there's no debating that. The other thing that people don't rely on is how much satiety you can produce through your body through nutrition, right?
Yes.
Protein is so massively hard to digest. Your body, the cool thing about protein is about 30 to 40% of the calories that you consume from protein is actually burned in the process of digesting it. It's called the thermogenic effect of food. So if you really want to slow down digestion and burn calories at the same time, eat more protein. It also drives a lot of satiety because it's hard to process. On top of that, add more fiber so it slows down digestion. This will stimulate natural GLP production. So you quite literally are stimulating GLP-1 while taking a GLP-1. That sounds pretty cool to me. Not redundant, synergistic because it's endogenous with exogenous, and that pairs well together. You can also add more dietary fats, which will also slow down digestion as well, right? So there are so many ways, and there's also something called mechanostretch receptors in your stomach. So if you stretch your stomach above baseline, maybe with a carbonated beverage or highly voluminous foods that are low in calories, like salads, for example, or fruits, veggies, you stretch your stomach. This sends your mechanostretch receptors essentially stretch and sends a signal through neurons to your brain promoting satiety. So you can drive satiety through so many ways through food and liquids without ever having to take two GLPs. And it's amazing. Like what your body can do on top of what you can take with a compound should be more than enough. It is more than enough, right? There's never a reason to take two GLPs ever, ever.
Yeah. I drink seltzer all the time,
Yeah,
like
and it's
all the
carbonated,
time.
and carbonation really helps with satiety. It does, it
Yeah.
genuinely does.
Yeah. It's
Um,
so true.
Another great thing to do is like when if you're eating on a meal plan, right, or you're going out somewhere, and like maybe let's just say you're going to a buffet. People love buffets. When
Yeah.
you go to a buffet, start with a large bowl of things that are going to digest really slow. Proteins and veggies, right? Slam the veggies, eat a bowl or two of veggies, and then go eat. That's going to get you so massively full. Like I think people are just like, the problem is people are eating like highly palatable foods while they're on GLPs. And so like they never really get like that satiety feeling, right? Like, like I don't know if you've ever eaten McDonald's. I'm sure you've had McDonald's in your life at one point. Like when
One
you eat
point.
McDonald's, like you quite literally just don't feel full even after you just like, I know for me, like I can go eat a Big Mac and a large fry and I'm like, dang, like I could have
Yeah.
probably done that again, right? It's
Yeah.
because these foods are made to be highly palatable, but whole foods are not engineered that way. They will make you feel so freaking full, even just eating a little bit of it. Like there's so many ways to drive, satiety without having to run so many GLPs. There just
Yeah.
is. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I always tell people if you're on like 4 mgs of Retta, or they come in and they're saying they're on 10 mgs of TERS and they're feeling no suppression. And I'm like, I can tell you right now, I don't know your macros, but I know you're not eating enough protein.
Right.
I
Yeah.
just outright,
Yeah.
you don't,
Yeah.
you're not,
Yeah.
you're
That's a
not,
very safe assumption. It's a very safe assumption.
you know?
Yeah.
So that's, and, that kind of leads me into, this one, does higher doses of Retta burn fat better, or does it take, and this is kind of like two questions, or does it take a certain dose of Retta to turn on the glucagon receptor?
Those are good questions. So does a higher dose of Retta on paper burn more fat? Yes, it does, because glucagon receptor agonism does show dose-dependent responses in clinical trials, which means that as you take more, you do technically increase energy expenditure, and you do burn more fat. Okay, but here's the problem with that. That doesn't always apply to someone's situation because of what we talked about earlier. Metabolic adaptation. Your body's like, if you're again not consuming enough food, then your body slows down all of its metabolic processes. So it doesn't really matter. Like the glucagon arm of retatrutide's energy expenditure boost is not going to outpace metabolic adaptation. So where you would get more fat burning in a dose dependent manner is when you're properly supporting your metabolism. Now, people will probably bark at me and say, well, every time that they increase the dose in trials, they lost more fat. Yeah, they did, but the dose escalations were massive and they literally were going to drive results regardless of what the hell was going on. And the big thing here is, who cares what happened in clinical trials? Because if you go look at the post-clinical trials for semaglutide and tirzepatide, guess what? Basically, nobody maintained their results. Almost everybody gained back all of the weight, if not even more weight than their original starting point. So tell me if that was successful. It wasn't. That's not successful. That's a failure. That's a huge failure. So clinical trial application doesn't really apply to the real world. We can use it as data, and it's useful data, like the dose dependent response on fat loss. That does obviously exist, but you still have to make that work, right? So that's why I always talk about, like, clinical trial sustainability is not the same as real world sustainability. And so long story short, I think I'm getting sidetracked here, but long story short, you do burn more fat as you increase the dose, but you still have to support your metabolism. And if you support your metabolism as you increase the dose, then yeah, you could do it. But here's the thing: people that are really supporting their metabolism, 9 times out of 10, don't really find themselves having to take that high of a dose of a GLP.
Hmm.
They really don't. I think that the average person probably falls somewhere in the 2 to 6 milligram range, right? And that's more than enough for the large majority of people. And I guarantee you, somebody with a really good lifestyle on 4 to 6 milligrams can achieve far better fat loss results than somebody with a bad lifestyle at 12 milligrams. And not only will they get better results, but it will be sustainable too, because they developed healthy habits. Okay. Because again, weight loss while you're on the compound, that's cool, but can you sustain it while you're off of it? If the answer is no, then did you actually do anything meaningful? No, I mean,
Hmm.
not really, you know? And then the whole glucagon receptor activation thing, that's also inherently not true. Glucagon is activated at the bare minimum dose, but it has a dose-dependent response. And at around 4 milligrams, if you look at the clinical trials, there's a large jump between 2 and 4 when it comes to overall weight loss. That's because it looks like glucagon becomes one of the dominant signals, right? It really starts to activate or like drive the best results at 4 milligrams, but it's not a on-off switch. It's a dimmer switch, right? It's a magnitude of effects. As I increase my dose, I get more glucagon. And you get more GLP-1 and GIP, obviously, but more glucagon. It becomes a dominant driver in the results. And so it's just a dimmer switch. That's all it really is, right? It's not an on-off switch. It's not how receptors work.
No, it's not how receptors work. It's like any amount of Retta is going to turn on at some level
Right.
your glucagon receptor,
Yes.
period.
Period.
And the one thing I preach to people is more, and this is okay, this is going to sound a little weird, but more is not more with Retta. In sense that, like you said, there are people who, if your lifestyle and your working out and everything is dialed in, you might not need to go above like 2 or 4 milligrams
Right.
and you can
Right.
see ample weight loss. Just because you upped the Retta to 6 milligrams in like 6 weeks does not, it does not mean, well, now I'm going to lose the weight.
Right.
That's not what that
Right.
means.
Yeah.
Because you still have to, one, you still have to do the work. And two, um, the thing that like really grinds my gears here is that people rush up and dose like their ass is on fire.
Yeah, they do.
Okay. They really do. It's so dangerous and they don't take into account dose titration.
Right. Yeah.
They do not.
Yeah, that's a big one. Is like people are so desperately trying to figure out like titration schedules, and so many people, and I've gotten a lot of flack for this one as well. Like I always tell people to not necessarily follow the clinical dosing protocol. People are like, well, that's how they do it in clinical trials. That's how doctors prescribe. That's how I'm going to do it. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to try to change your mind. You seem set in stone. You go do what you want to do. But for the people that actually want to listen, why would you increase the dose of retatrutide if it's working? Why would you increase the
Thank you.
dose? Right. Why
Thank
increase the
you.
dose? And also, if the dose isn't working, that's also not directly a reason to increase it. It's also a reason to look at your lifestyle. I always say that first. Like, again, it's a tool and your lifestyle is the main driver. Okay. Like you use a wrench to maybe, tighten something in place, but your wrench doesn't drive the car. You drive your car. Right. So long story short, if you're not making progress on a dose, before you think about increasing it, adjust your lifestyle, adjust your nutrition, adjust your energy expenditure, check your sleep, maybe verify things on on blood work, looking at hormones, thyroid function, something like that. And then after you've adjusted all these things, then increase the dose if it's no longer working. But it should be a last resort because it's not the primary lever for results. People get great results on GLPs because GLPs work. But when GLPs stop working, people scramble for bigger, better options. And really, there's nothing else out there that's going to be a bigger, better option. And then you find people stacking 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different peptides like Coach Cam does. Which is totally fine, but they do it because they're desperate. Like, oh my gosh, I'm not making progress. I'm not going to reach my summer bod by July, and I'm going to the beach. Like, okay, let's dial it back for a second and go back to bare bones, right? I do this with my coaching clients all the time. A lot of them come to me and they're already on a million different compounds, and I'm like, yo, what does your nutrition look like? Are you deficient? Let's see some blood work. Let's look, and like a lot of times you'll see their thyroid's barely functioning, right? Or their hormones are all out of whack, or like they're eating 1,200 calories, right? And like no health supplements. And so you're like, okay, this is your problem. It's not that you don't respond to NAD plus and MOTS-C 5-amino and SLU and retatrutide. It's that you just don't have anything set up. Like your framework is peptides, and then like a small blip inside that circle is like your nutrition and your sleep and your exercise. Like, I mean, obviously things are not going to work as they're supposed to, right? And I'm not trying to harp on anybody in particular. I just want people to understand that, to make these compounds work, you have to work. And I've probably said that 100 times, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
more, but.
Well, the thing that I did a video on was titration math, explaining it to people. Because
Yep.
what they don't understand is what a half-life really is.
Yeah, that's very important. Yeah.
The differentiation of what a half-life actually is. I can't begin to tell you how many people think that's when the compound stops working?
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's not what it is. So
No.
I took a liter of seltzer and a cup, and I poured myself a cup, and I drank half of it, and then I poured myself another cup. And I'm like, this is when you take your next dose of Retta. Half of last week's dose still in the cup.
Right. Plus a full another dose. Right.
And now a
Yeah.
full another dose. So it's like
Exactly.
just by taking your regular dose for 6 weeks, you are increasing
Your dose. Yeah.
your
It's your
dose.
serum concentration is rising of these compounds. And that's what people don't realize. So it's you can plug this into like glp1plotter.com, but if you go and you look, 4 milligrams of retatrutide is actually way more in serum concentration than 4 milligrams. It's higher. And that's due to something called half-life stacking, like you just explained with your analogy. Okay. So for people that don't understand what she was saying, basically, let's say you take retatrutide on a Monday. Okay. You have 100% and it peaks in your serum concentration on roughly day 3 or 4, because that's about half of the actual half-life. I know that can get confusing, but long story short, you take it on a Monday. By next Monday, you have 50% left of week 1's dose in your system, but it's time to take dose number 2 for the week, or for week 2, right? So you're taking your second dose. So now, for example, you have 150%, right? It's not realistically that, but it is compounded. And so at week 3, guess what? You have 25% of week 1, 50% of week 2, and 100% of week 3. And then you go to week 4, 12.5% from week 1, 25% from week 2, 50% from week 3, and 100% from week 4. And then you go to week 5 and you have 6.25, 12.5, 25, 50, and 100. You can see how that's what half-life is. It continues to linger in your system until it's fully metabolized out. And with retatrutide, it's about 4 to 6 weeks for it to actually fully get out of your system, because you go 100 to 50 to 25 to 12.5 to 6.25 to 3 and 1/8 to basically is 0 at that point, right? But it takes time to get out of your system and also to build in your system. So when people say, I don't feel it on week 1, okay, well, that's because it still takes 4 to 6 weeks for it to actually fully maturize in your system. And so give it time, because the problem is you may not feel it week 1, you may not feel it week 2, you may not feel it week 3, but you might feel it week 4. And the problem is if you increase your dose on week 2 or 3, and then you get to week 4 or 5, you're probably going to get sick and start dealing with adverse side effects, constipation, diarrhea, gastroparesis, like all the nasty effects that can come from GLPs, because you're so worried about getting your results now instead of having some level of delayed gratification and understand. And again, some people just don't understand half-lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so hopefully that was a good explanation. Now you understand that the compound genuinely takes time to build. And if you don't feel it, just be patient, because that is the difference between side effects and success, right? Is that helpful?
Yes.
Yeah.
For the adverse side effects from Retta, I like to remember from the early aughts that commercial for Pepto-Bismol.
Yes. Nausea,
Nausea,
heartburn.
heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach,
Oh yeah.
diarrhea.
I know that commercial. That commercial, like you're like sleep on the couch, like wakes you up at 3 a.m, scaring the crap out of you. Yeah, no, everybody and their mother has heard that 1,000 times for sure.
That, and then you got to throw in elevated heart rate and skin sensitivity. But that covers like 98% of them
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
just remember that song.
yeah. That's perfect. It's a gastrointestinal nightmare for some people.
So that's why I try to explain to people more isn't necessarily more because dose titration, you are taking more
Right.
just by
You are.
taking your dose.
Yeah, you're taking more just by taking it. Just by taking
You
the
just
same dose, you are literally taking more than you realize. Like I said, 4 milligrams after 4 to 6 weeks is not 4 milligrams. It's significantly higher than 4 milligrams. It is,
right,
right? So
right,
serum concentration is different from actual exogenous administration. It's not the same dose.
right. There's no rush. There's no rush. I mean, were you in a rush when you gained all this weight?
Right. That's the other thing is like people want it to come off so quick, but it's like it took you probably years to get to where you are. So understand that it doesn't necessarily have to take years to get it all off, but it's not going to happen in a week or a month, right? Or maybe even a year for some people. You got to just give it time. The only thing that actually matters is if you're getting a little bit better every day. Consistency is going to outpace everything. Have we never learned the thing? Everybody learned it in grade school about the turtle and the the hare, the rabbit
Mhm.
race, and the turtle ends up winning, and it's because the turtle was literally just consistent. Like it's such a stupid little story, but it paints the most realistic picture of what's happening in this space. Like people want everything now, but it's as simple as just like like letting it, like give it some time, let it breathe. You know what I mean? Give it some time. You just gotta be patient. That's it.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, so one thing I wanted to talk about, it's not really a myth, but it's something that gets me mad, is caglintide. I feel like people abuse it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's kind of in the same discussion as stacking two GLPs. The only benefit that and so I haven't really changed my mind on cagrilintide because I don't think that a lot of people need double suppression. I really don't.
I don't
Some
either.
people respond really well to cagrilintide. Some people don't get much from it, and so whatever. That's neither here nor there. My thing is that with cagrilintide, there is some benefit to the compound in terms of the calcitonin receptor agonism because it has what you would call an anti-resorptive effect. So it actually helps protect connective tissue, and it also has anti-osteoclast activity. So it actually helps with the prevention of bone breakdown. So there is some good benefit to cagrilintide, but again, here's the big problem: that does not outpace nutrient deficiencies and malnutrition. You will still lose bone mass. You will still damage connective tissue. You will still, if you're deficient in those things, nothing matters because you have to have the building blocks. So cagrilintide can be a good option. And honestly, the only like besides the situation of maybe combining them for very specific situations that I don't think the large majority of people need, the only situation where I think that it might be a decent compound is like if you wanted to come off of retatrutide and maybe use that to get to lower doses of retatrutide long term, and then maybe sprinkle in cagrilintide as a way to maybe just give you some level of suppression in kind of that in between period. But that's it for me. I personally have zero use case for it because like low dose Reta absolutely kills me, like in a good way. So
Mhm.
I literally do not need to go higher. Nor so I don't think I would ever touch cagrilintide personally.
I would never touch
Yeah,
it, as
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
I'm pretty open about my disdain for
Sure,
caglintide.
sure.
Um, much for the reasons you've already explained. I think it's a hop, skip, and a jump away from an eating disorder. And as someone who's struggled with eating disorders, it just screams eating disorder to me because it's
Well,
just,
yeah, and I feel like GLPs and like honestly appetite suppressions like they kind of like almost are a like it's self-administered eating disorder for some people, right? Because it depends on your psychology and obviously how you look at the compound. Like again, intent is everything, and like the way that you use the compound matters more than the compound itself. Um, and so like for some people, like it can be a very useful way to help fight addictive tendencies, but for some people, it also can potentially obviously exacerbate bad behavior. And so like most things in life, double-edged swords, they kind of exist everywhere. GOPs are ultimately no different. I've seen them change many people's lives, and I've seen them probably worsen people's lives as well, right? And that's going to happen because free will and choice, right? And that's a God-given right. So it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. But that's why education is important, right? That's why
yeah,
education is super super important.
yeah. The two use cases that I've heard of for the cagrelintide that I say, okay, makes sense, is there one time was a person who came into my life who's genuinely has an allergy to something, one of the active ingredients in regular GLPs.
Oh wow, I mean,
Okay.
it's probably extremely rare. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Super fucking rare.
yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah,
well, in that case, and people like fell over. I was like, this is one of those very rare cases where I'm
yeah,
like, use cagrelintide.
yeah. Right.
It's different. It's different. Like you said, calcitonin and amylin. Different receptors. Try it. And when people have severe food addiction, binge style eating disorders, because there are some people I know of who have binge style eating disorders where they will even binge while they sleep.
Wow. Wow.
Like it's really severe. But the percentage of people who have severe food addiction binge style eating disorders, severe, enough that it is truly uncontrollable, or have a genuine allergy to a GLP, GIP, or glucagon receptor agonist is super duper low.
Yeah, it's gonna be a microscopically small percentage of the population.
Extremely small
Yeah,
percentage
so
of the
yeah,
population.
that's my thing is like if somebody's asking me about the combination of retatrutide and cagrilintide, I don't necessarily shoot them down. I say before you make that decision, have you done everything with your lifestyle to improve satiety signaling? Like we talked about earlier, protein, fiber, dietary fats, mechanostretch receptors, highly voluminous foods that are low calorie. Like do the things in your lifestyle before you just throw in another compound that is very much suppressive. Because again, if you're already struggling on Retta, then it like cagrilintide's probably not going to make your situation better. It's going to make it worse, right? So it's definitely not the primary pick, nor is it even probably a secondary pick. It's more like a tertiary, like it's a background role player for very specific situations. And that's where my thought process was whenever people ask me about the quintuple agonist, right? So basically retatrutide with cagrilintide mixed. It's not directly the same thing, but it is effectively the same receptors being agonized. And my thought process didn't change. I was like, guys, this compound is going to beat retatrutide in the clinical trials, but that does not mean that it's a better option. Right. It doesn't mean that it's a better option because more, like you explained, is not always more. Okay. More might equal 40% total weight loss, but that doesn't mean that it's sustainable. And it won't be, right? Because no GLPs in clinical trials have really been sustainable. So this is not going to be any different. It's just not, right? Obviously, I'm speaking as an assumption, but with a given track record of all GLPs in the past not being sustainable when it comes to results in a clinical setting, probably not going to be sustainable here either. So again,
Mhm.
intent, like use the compounds correctly, use them intelligently, use them if you absolutely need them, understand the reasons why you would need them versus the reasons that you can maybe just focus on with lifestyle, and then come to the decision if it's going to fit your lifestyle or not. That's it's the best advice you can give, right? Because you're not going to be able to stop somebody from doing it, but you can certainly tell them there's other ways to go about it prior to at least jumping into that.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. So the next one I want to cover is something that Ion got a lot of shit for, and you and I both affiliate for Ion. But people saying oral peptides don't work.
Well, oral peptides do work. My only thought process behind like the oral drops that came out, and we don't have to even talk about those specifically. We can just talk about oral capsules and whatever the case is. Like
We could
they're
talk about the drops. Let's talk about the
my
drops.
only thing is like before I say whether or not they're like okay, so this is the first thing that I will say. Um when it comes to oral drops, I guarantee you, if you ask Shay, the owner of Ion himself, he is not trying to make a claim that they compete with injectables, right? Because injectables are
Exactly.
going to be superior. But guess what? There are people on this planet that will not inject themselves. So he is trying to provide a solution for somebody to give them some sort of meaningful change in their life, independent of the need for having to poke themselves, right? So even if the oral liquid droplets are 5 or 10 or 15% bioavailable, like that is still better than a baseline. But I think like again, I'm somewhere in the middle on this because if the compound is marketed as a really good alternative, but it has no data to prove that it's a bioavailable version, well, then that's probably a bit misleading. But if they're not marketing it as a way to be superior or the best option for administration, then like what's the shame in the game? Like you don't have to use them. You know what I mean? You can just stick to injectables, and that's fine. Like my company is going to be coming out with transdermals, and there's a lot of really good science and research and development behind transdermal application, their bioavailability, and nasals. Right? Nasals can be pretty cool and very much bioavailable depending on the compound. And oral capsules, there are oral capsules that do in fact work orally, and then you have injectables. Injectables are wonderful, and you have subcutaneous, and you have intramuscular, and you have intravenous, you have sublingual, you have buccal, you have oral, like you have transdermal. There's a million ways that compounds can be applied, and there are always ways that science will progress forward and find bioavailable ways that are not necessarily through an IV or through an intramuscular or subcutaneous injection. It's going to happen. Now, does it replace those? Probably never. But that's not the claims, right? That's not the claims. So that's my thought process on it. As like as long as it's not being marketed as the best thing on the market, then it's not inherently misleading. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And Shay also came on my live like a week ago and said to people that the R&D company that developed the drops is going in the next 4 months gonna have hard numbers on what their bioavailability is.
That's
They're
great.
researching it.
And I haven't checked, but do they have growth hormone, like
Yeah.
peptides? Okay,
They have
so
ipamorelin.
really cool experiment, guys. Go take some of those, go buy them and take them, and then go do blood work and just look at your growth hormone IGF-1 levels, get a baseline, and then go take those, and then go do your blood work, and then see how well they perform. You know what I mean? And you can test multiple dosing ranges. You can test more, you can test less, you can test it all against your baseline and genuinely pull numbers to see what it's doing, right? That way, it's not a, hey, this doesn't work because it's being destroyed in your gut. Well, let's prove that, right? Let's put some, and again, and the pushback would be, well, we'll just wait till the actual papers come out. That's also fine, right? Because again, you don't
Mhm.
have to buy them,
Yeah,
right? You don't have to buy them.
exactly.
So
Exactly. I say the same thing. Like, listen, injectables, intramuscular specifically, is always gonna be king because of absorption, okay? It's always gonna beat out sub-Q, and sub-Q is gonna be next, okay? But everything after that is compound dependent on the
right,
size of the molecules
right.
and on the delivery method and on anything else they might have done to modify the compound for said delivery method.
Like Samax turned into Atomax, right? Like, for example, like Atomax is a absolutely wonderful nasal because it quite literally has an N-acetyl group added to the front end to prevent against enzymatic degradation, and then an adamantane group added to the back end of the amino acid chain to improve lipophilicity. And your blood-brain barrier is a fatty layer, and so
Mhm,
with Atomax being administered nasally, it can very easily reach the fat of the blood-brain barrier and pass it in far larger doses, more potency, longer active half life, stronger availability, making it a far superior compound in a nasal format, right? Doesn't mean it doesn't work subcutaneously, but nasally it makes a lot of sense because the goal is to get it to work within the brain and to pass the blood brain barrier, and it can do that because of the modifications made to it, right? So again, the R&D, right, and again, whether they end up patenting the R&D, they don't disclose all the excipients or not, that's obviously up to them, but like if the R&D proves bioavailable and that can be replicated, then at that point it's like there's not much to say, right? Um, and even if it's poor bioavailability, like we are currently using compounds in the space that do have poor bioavailability. But for example, SLUPP332, like it is horribly bioavailable orally, but it still works orally when it still works orally, but now you have to take pretty high doses, but it still
mhm,
works. And a lot of people don't want to inject SLU because you have to mix it with DMSO. And that's not a solvent that people want to be injecting themselves with. So people don't do it. Now, some people do and whatever, but a lot of people don't want to do that. So they just take the higher dose capsules and they do work. Same with 5-amino-1-MQ. It has a relatively decent bioavailability. Doesn't mean that it's superior to injectable, but it is still an option that works, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah,
No, I'm glad we talked about this
yeah,
because,
yeah.
you know, like, Shay was getting a lot of flack for that, and I think it's a little, um, short-sighted for the reasons you said.
I just think extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that's both sides, right? Like if Shay's going to sell the droplets, then let him prove himself. But if you're going to make claims that the compounds don't work without ever having tested them yourself or running a bioavailability test on it, however you go about doing such, then you have to also provide the evidence, right? So it's not necessarily. I think it's one of those things where it's like if you don't want to use them right now, then just wait until more information comes out. And that's a lot of people will sit on the sidelines and genuinely wait for information. And those people, like, that's great, right? And for the people that are like shooting it down, it's like, I'm not again. I don't, whatever. If you're gonna jump on it and do that kind of stuff, like I don't personally try to go after stuff like that because again, like I would rather see it through and allow that person to develop the literature behind it to prove bioavailability as opposed to just automatically shooting it down, you know?
Right, exactly. And, like, I, he sent me some samples, of so I picked Wolverine because that makes sense to me scientifically, and then I got Ipamorelin because the ghrelin receptor happens in your stomach, so that made sense to me too. So I was like, let's give Ipamorelin a shot in drops, why not? You know? So, I don't know when I'm gonna do that experiment, but I have it.
Yeah,
So,
you should. I mean, you should run it and I mean, like you could go track growth hormone like that. If you have a growth hormone one, like that's pretty simple. I would want to, I would get a baseline of your growth hormone and IGF-1. And so the thing is with growth hormone is like that one's gonna be harder to read because like the active half-life of ipamorelin is like minutes. So like the pulse of growth hormone is going to be negligible. But your IGF-1 will stay elevated, right? So you can get a baseline of IGF-1 and then you can take a pretty fat load of whatever you want to take and experiment with, your ipamorelin, and then go pull IGF-1 reports and just see if there was any elevation above baseline, and obviously try to get yourself into a position where like you're at a like a relative like you're not using anything else that could obviously raise or
elevate.
lower IGF-1. You obviously want it to be like as clean of a relative n=1 study that you could possibly produce. But like that's a good way to just test efficacy. Like, does it work? Does
Yeah,
it not work? I mean, there we go.
exactly. There we
That's the
go.
easiest way to do it, right?
Yeah.
If I was Shea Bro, I would just send samples out to all the people that said that it doesn't work. You know what I mean? And just
Hmm.
let them try it.
Yes.
That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
That
So
would be, who was it? I think Kim Kardashian did that with her perfume.
really,
There was this episode, I am admitting that I used to watch Keeping Up with the
I still watch
Kardashians.
Keeping Up with the Kardashians with my wife, so
But
yeah,
oh my god,
I'm
I
very
love
comfortable.
it.
I'm very familiar with it.
Okay, good. So, she came out with a perfume and people were shit talking her perfume. So everyone who was like on her haters list of like people who had negative things to say about her in the press, she came out with a scent called Envy and mailed it press
Yeah,
packs to each and
yeah.
every one of them.
That's my thought process. Is like I'm not going to be a hater on anything until there's evidence, right? And I also may not be a person that endorses it because I would rather just wait and see if there's evidence, right? Like I'm a lot of times I like to be an evidence-based person, and like in a lot of arguments in this space, I've always been a fence sitter, because I genuinely don't think that like there's a necessity to like throw unnecessary hate around without having claims to deny or prove otherwise, right? Like there's things that I will shoot down, like like the whole testosterone thing that we talked about with the testosterone claims, or the BPC claims, and some stuff like that, like people trying to say that this does that. Like I've seen even more doctors talk about MT2 in the last week than like one doctor said it
Oh my
causes
God.
rhabdomyolysis, which is rapid muscle breakdown, and yeah, it did. There was a case report of that, but the person overdosed on MT2. Right? They didn't take a normal dose; they overdosed on it. Like they quite literally, I think they took like 6 milligrams of it or something like that. Right? So
Jesus.
yeah, no wonder something like that occurred. But like that's not happening in normal dosing, right? It's never, at least I've never seen a case report on a normal dose of MT2 causing that, right?
Hmm.
Or like all the cancer cases, they say, oh, it causes cancer. Well, no, it doesn't. There's case reports of people getting cancer while they were on it, but they also were in tanning beds regularly. So going back to what we were just talking about, like if you're going to hate on something, again, just provide, like if you hate on it and you end up being right and you provided evidence of you being right, then like I applaud you, right? Because you called it out and that's awesome. But like don't call something out before you've proven either for it or against it, right? I feel like that's just more of like I feel like that's just, I don't know. That's how I go about it, at least, you know.
Right. But I just think claiming that they're the most danger to the peptide space and industry as a whole is a bit dramatic.
So I don't know as far as like I guess where they're coming from is like with it being the research space, like oral droplets would imply human consumption, and obviously everything that we talk about is for research and educational purposes only. Um, but I mean, I don't, again, I don't know where you draw that line. Um,
Right.
it's hard for me to even like think about where that line is drawn, because I don't necessarily know if people have ever gotten taken down specifically for oral droplets, which we haven't really seen before, or the sublingual strips that exist, or nasal sprays,
Mhm.
or like what is bad versus good. I don't think that really there's even really a defined line. I think that honestly, like all of it could go up in flames technically at any point, regardless of what that person is selling or not. Right.
At
Um,
any moment,
right.
you can
At any
get a
moment. Right.
letter from
So
that three-lettered
I don't
agency,
know if it's
and
any different, right? I think the biggest thing is like the companies that have gone down are selling things that are like on the absolute no-no list. Like, um, SARMs, like actual growth hormone, those types of things. I think have gotten people in the most trouble as opposed to like different administration routes, right? Now again, I don't know, like even coming from an owner standpoint, like I am relatively naive to this, and like I wish I had better information. Um, so I think it's just a navigate the situation type thing. I don't necessarily know if it's going to get the entire space shut down. I don't know that. I think that probably has more so to do with people selling courses on how to open a peptide company and make a bunch of money off of people, right? And it's like an 18-year-old that made an ebook and he's drop shipping peptides and like he's selling it to his other 18-year-old friends and they're all
Hmm.
running the summer shred stat. Like I think that's probably more dangerous for the space. It's just these
Thank you.
random companies popping up that aren't doing high quality testing, and that are marketing it for human consumption. Like I feel like that's far more damaging to the space. Than a company that maybe is bringing out like some new R&D, right? I don't know. It is such a it's such a gray space. It is. That's the damaging part of the space. Because
I
those are the
know.
same
That's
people
what
that
I
are
was saying.
also opening companies, and they like they literally like these people are giving out dosing information on their videos. Like if that's not like if anything is going to destroy the space, it's the people that are literally giving out dosing recommendations on their videos. Like you are giving how to use this compound. Here's how to mix your compound. Here's what dose you should start at. Here's your cycle length. Here's your like what are you doing? That is actually illegal, right? Like that is like you cannot do that, right? So that is the part that I think is the most and the problem with that is the people that are giving out like dosing information are also the same people that, like you said, don't know what they're talking about, right? So if you ask them, well, where did you pull your dosing information from, right? And not that their dosing information is necessarily wrong, but they're providing cookie cutter answers for people, and they're not basing their dosing information off of really anything relevant. They're just basing it off of what they probably read off of Google, right? Or some sort of peptide dosage website. And again, not that that's inherently wrong, but you're literally making content where you're explaining how to take a peptide, and you probably don't even understand what the peptide is or how it works, right? And that goes back to like what we talked about earlier with Motzi, where you'll read somebody or you'll watch somebody's video and they'll say like, well, yeah, I get amazing energy from Motzi, and then somebody takes it, Joey or Susie take Motzi and they feel terrible, and they're like, well, you lied, or I'm broken. Which one is it? Well, it's kind of a little bit of both. They did lie to you because they told you it's an energy peptide, which is again not inherently true. But then you are also somewhat broken. You got to figure out why, right? But they're not going to be able to tell you why. So that's the problem as well. Is like when a space grows that has money available in it for people to make, it's going to attract people that are coming for the wrong reasons. It's going to be attracting. It's going to like again. My perfect example is there are people that are selling courses on how to start a peptide company, and they're like, my company's doing 6 figures a month, and so now I feel inclined to open or sell an ebook that teaches you how to start a company, right? And so like that is the problem with this space, is that the people that were in the space originally were in the space to genuinely teach people, because there wasn't really as much that went into it. It was like, hey, this peptide's cool, and maybe I tried it and it helped me, and I want to teach people about it, and blah 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 blah. But now you have people that are giving out full blown protocols and starting companies because they read an ebook, and trying to give out peptide information because they asked ChatGPT what MOTS is. And you're just like, okay, like where does this stop? Because that, and like I said, for me, that is the part that is the scariest for this industry. Is like one, it's probably the thing that's going to get it in trouble if something ever does happen, obviously, and two, it's also where people are going to get hurt, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Dangerous.
like somebody told me that they saw a protocol for Mot C where they were saying that you should take like 10 to 15 milligrams once weekly. Um, and like the problem with MOTS-C is like MOTS-C can quite literally cause, as you know, a very annoying injection site reaction, and it seems to have a dose dependent response, and a high dose one bolus dose can cause a full blown anaphylactic reaction. And so you're
Mm.
talking about somebody going to full blown anaphylaxis by themselves at their house. Well, guess what? If they don't have an EpiPen, that could be a death sentence, right?
Hmm.
So you said like, so people make up these protocols and they base it off of literally nothing. And so you wonder, where did somebody get that information and why do they feel comfortable presenting that information? And it's because they're making money, right? And so that's the scary part. And like, I'm not saying I don't make money, and you're not saying you don't make money, but what we
Right.
both have in common is the idea that we want to provide information for people that is genuinely authentic and genuinely aligns with what is out there in terms of research, right? Like with how I produce my content these days, I don't just look at the peptide literature, because a lot of peptide literature is either petri dish or preclinical in animals, and very few things actually have ever happened in humans, right? For the vast majority of them. So you can't just look towards that, because that doesn't apply one to one to a human. So you have to also look at the pathways that the compound interacts with. And that is independent of a peptide study. That might just be, what does AMPK signaling do, right? And then you learn about all the studies that have been conducted on AMPK signaling and what happens. And then you make extrapolations. And unfortunately, that is just the research space, because again, we're probably not going to see a lot of these compounds ever go through clinical trials in humans. So you're not going to have like that perfect information. So you have to extrapolate, right? And extrapolation is never perfect, but it's definitely better than somebody telling you that MOTS gives you energy and you should take 15 milligrams of it in one shot, right?
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, but
And even if you did have clinical literature, the other thing too about a clinical trial is the clinical trial is measuring things on an angle. And the angle is to prove their hypothesis of their experiment that A equals B is it's effective. A can then cause B. That's their angle. So they're not necessarily always looking at I was talking to Dr. Christie about this. They're not always often looking at how it affects, let's say, like gene expression.
right.
Like,
Yeah,
why would they?
right.
You know? But a lot of them do,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, they basically look for their endpoints in like a safety tolerability thing, right? Like they're gonna look at,
Right.
is it safe in animals? Okay, let's move it to humans. In humans, what doses do we need to work within? Is the compound safe at these doses? What is the protocol? And is it reaching its statistical endpoint? For example, is it improving insulin sensitivity in type 2 diabetics, right? And that's like what it's looking at. And then there'll be some, like there might be some adverse studies that, like branching studies that look at different things, and that's great, because more information is better, and like looking at multiple different angles is always the best way to get the whole
Mhm.
scoopage. But like we you can never understand like the full scoopage unless there's not like set in stone literature, right? So like you said, like, how does a compound affect this, or does it affect that? Because all we have is how it affects this, and like that is different from that. And so yeah, like it's never going to be set in stone, which is again why this is a research space. It's an extrapolation space, it's an application space, it's an anecdotal space. It's not a set in stone 100% proven without a shadow of a doubt space, because it never really will be that, right? Plus it really couldn't ever be that, because biology doesn't really have absolutes. So like the way that you respond to a compound is never how I would respond to a compound, even in a perfect environment, right? It might be similar, but like genetics play a very large role in responses, right? And that's one of a million different levers that could be pulled. So
A wise man once said
yes.
that anyone who says there's an absolute in biology makes an absolute ass of himself.
Yes, very famous scholar, I believe it once was. Yes. Yeah. So, it's a crazy space, because um there's so much information that there's too much information, and the
Mhm.
bulk of the information is surface level and incomplete to a very large degree, right? And
Speaking of too much
yeah, go
information,
ahead.
can we just take a moment to drive this home? For the love of God, people, please don't get your protocols from ChatGPT.
Right, because ChatGPT is compiling information from Google searches, unless you quite literally are prompting ChatGPT to do extrapolations from animal models, and then look at EC50s or IC50 scores, and then intervene with pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics, and then comes to a wide range dose that might be tolerable for a human. That's the only way that it would be accurate. but it's still not accurate because it's not proven in humans. So like if you're asking ChatGPT for a protocol, it's pulling from Google searches. And the same Google search that it's pulling from is what Susan pulled from, and then Joey pulled from, and then Timmy pulled from. And so like you guys are all developing protocols based off of like what is surface level available on the internet, unless you're genuinely telling it to go and scrape the bottom of every single study that exists and pull up animal extrapolated dosing that might translate to humans to some degree, right? So again, it's the research space. ChatGPT protocols are notoriously not going to be accurate. They're just not, right? That's not really possible, right?
Right.
Unless you
Right.
prompt it appropriately, which people are not prompting it appropriately.
No, no, they're not. You got to train your AI the way you would train your pet dog.
Yes.
Okay. You want it to do tricks, you got to teach it. You got to spend time teaching it how to do the tricks for it to do the tricks. I spent a lot of time investing in my AI to um, pull from like PubMed and NIH.gov and a few other places, and then cross-referenced it with the TikTok guidelines so that my scripts, if I am making scripted content, are one accurate, but two, not getting
Right.
violations. It
Right.
it helped a lot.
Yeah.
It helped a lot. It's not foolproof because sometimes I may still get a violation, as you know, but it helped cut down on the frequency of the violations substantially.
Good. That's good. That's a smart way to
Yeah.
go about it.
Yeah. So. But anyway, it's time for story time. Everyone's favorite time. Perspective, not prescription. Now, last time you were here, you told us about how peptides help you get your beautiful baby daughter.
Yes.
Do we have any peptide stories, or where do you wanna?
Besides, I don't really have any necessarily peptide stories. Nothing crazy's happened in my life besides obviously my daughter being born. No, I mean honestly, like I've been busting my butt to get the business as well oiled as it possibly can be, and that's kind of where I've been. So yeah, I'm heavily involved in the peptides, but not any cool personal stories as of recent. Definitely some experiments I want to run. I want to run Fox04 DRI being one of them. I know you talked about that. My only thing as of right now is like I'm just not like in a headspace where like an experiment is on the agenda right now. Like I just don't.
Mhm.
I have too much stuff going on and not enough time to get it all done. So that's where I'm at right now. It's
Yeah.
a very unmotivating story, but it's going great. Like obviously everything that I do is a massive blessing. All glory to God and everybody that trusts in me to be able to do what I do. But it's a balancing act right now. Coach Cam is learning how to juggle and multitask. My wife always told me I'm terrible at multitasking, and she's not wrong. I'm pretty bad at it. I think women are far better multitaskers in general, right?
Yeah.
I'm not great. So I'm figuring it
Yeah.
out. We're making it happen.
Yeah. I'm just interested in, like, can you tell us, like, briefly, I guess, the genesis of what made you wanna start a peptide company?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. And honestly, I didn't want to. It wasn't me that was doing the convincing. It was I got convinced. So back with my first account, right? My one where I had like I don't know, like close to 60 or 70. I don't know how it was. My best account that I've ever had because it was the longest one I ever had. Um, I had Davis Diley reach out to me. Davis Diley is a very, 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 very well known fitness influencer. He makes awesome like if you guys want to learn like how to work out and like what muscle groups are hitting with what exercise, go watch his videos because they're so high level. It's such great content. And I honestly fanboyed over him, like, oh my gosh, Davis is in my DMs, what's up? He wanted to learn about peptides. I helped him out in the DMs a little bit, you know what I mean, taught him a couple things. And then he was like, dude, do you want to start a company? And I was like, yeah, really? No. Like I like to be an affiliate. I just get to hang out, make content, and like obviously help other companies succeed and make content and just enjoy life. And he was like, man, you should reconsider it, right? So he was like kind of persistent with me for a little bit, and I was like, you know what? Like, fine, let's do it, let's run it, let's make it happen. And man. from that day forward, has it been a journey to say the least. It's a lot. And for anybody that is interested in it, just understand that it is a lot, and then even more on top of that, especially if you want your company to be, I think, where like I want my company to be. Like I genuinely try to do the best that I can do at everything that I do. And I find myself these days, I stretch myself a bit too thin. And right now I'm not allowing myself to stretch myself too thin in the business aspect, because I care so deeply about getting it set up to be the best that it could possibly be for the customers, for obviously me and Davis and our families, as well as all the affiliates that make up the company. Like I want everybody to be successful. I want everybody to be able to be a part of the best company that I could possibly create, right? And again, like I said, I am so thankful for the people that have given me the opportunity to be able to do this in the first place. Like there was many years where I wanted to step into a space of like content creation and doing my own thing. And like for a while, I don't know how early you watch my content, but for a while, like I was working a full-time medical sales job while just making content. I would go and record in the supply room, and I would just
Hmm.
record content in the supply room, like in between cases, right? And I'd be at the hospital for 12 hours, and I would, bring up stuff and like record it when I could. And I'm just grateful that I've gotten to where I'm at, and it's because of everybody that supports me.
Hmm.
So I think I got off topic, but long story short,
No.
it's been great. Like I've absolutely loved it, and I'm looking forward to the growth of it. It's gonna be great. It really will. And we're trying to make it as cool and amazing as we possibly can.
Yeah,
Genuinely.
absolutely. No, it's great. Like it's not gonna be great. It's already existing. It's out
Yeah,
there.
it's
It's
happening.
already
It's
great.
happening.
It's happening.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's growing pains with any new
God.
venture.
Yeah, trust me. We've had plenty of those. Plenty of those. I can even share one. We had USPS lose 75 orders. So yeah, that was an expensive mistake. And it's not even something that we obviously did on our. It wasn't us.
Hmm.
But like obviously, like those are our customers, and their packages were lost, and like we don't have a choice. You know what I mean? It's like we're gonna make it right. So we reached out to everybody, reshipped everything, gave them in-store credit, free shipping, all the things that you should do when something happens, even if it's out of your control, right? And like that's what I'm trying to develop, is a company that like is for the people, right? Because
Hmm.
these people made me who I am. So I want it to be something that I can develop for the people. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm. And like I like that approach that it's for the people because the people are who gave us the luxury to be able to have the financial freedom that we have.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
for sure.
Like, I'm just so grateful for my Pepper fam every day. Like, and it blows my mind. Like, I don't even have that big of a following compared to, like, let's say a Davis, but it's a big enough following that I don't worry about money anymore.
Yeah, right.
I don't
Right.
I don't have a credit card
Yeah.
balance, you know what I mean? Like, I feel really comfortable and secure in my lifestyle for the first time, I think, in my adult life.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just
It's
like
it's provided
yeah.
some amazing opportunities. Genuinely it has. I mean, for me, like I told you on the last podcast, like it gave me the ability to be able to be here and spend time with my now daughter, obviously, and my wife. And like that means more to me than anything that I would ever get monetary, like money wise. Like because like I said, I live a simple lifestyle. I'm not a materialistic person. I'm a person that cares about time. And I said this in the last podcast. I literally said the exact same thing, but it's true. Like I have gotten time back in my life to be able to spend it with the people that I care about, right? And all the people that I care about on the internet, you, everybody that's behind the screens, that's supported my content, like you guys have given me that luxury. And so like I want to always continue to perform and help and be there and produce content as long as I possibly can, because you guys deserve that, right?
Mhm.
I will always feel as if I'm in debt, right, to the people that helped me get to where I was at, right? I may not have actual financial debt, but I do have debt to the people that are counting on me to help them to the best that I can. So I will always
Right.
be there, right? Always.
Right. Right. That's why, like, showing up to those lives, like, is so important because it's like that's my way to, like, show my appreciation is to be able to answer their questions
Right.
and hang out with them,
Yeah.
you know? It's like my lives are more of a hangout than a Q&A that yours are.
I get
Mine are a
hammered with
good
questions.
hang.
There's some nights where
You do.
I try to spin it off into like a chill session, but
Yeah.
I get pounded with questions and I love it. Like I
Yeah,
have
I know, you're good at it.
I've developed a rapid response sequence in my brain and I enjoy it. Like I've been live streaming every single day. Not every day. I don't stream Sundays, right? But every single day, for the most part, twice daily for the better part of a year and some change at this point. It's like I don't really see myself wanting to stop do that. The one thing that I do want to do is free up some more time to start recording some really awesome school content again because I
Mhm,
have been again so swamped. But I do think I'm getting to a point to where school content will be rapid firing, and I'm going to definitely do some catch up mechanics. Right, I got to get back on the ball with that. So the school
mhm.
community is going to be, that's like I said, that's one of my primary places for education. I wanted to make it like one of the best hubs on the planet for information and there's a good amount of stuff in there right now, but I am not comfortable with with how vacant I've been in terms of content production there. So that's a big desire to get back into that for sure. It's just the content I produce in there is I try to do as much research as I can, provide the best content, and it takes a lot of time to put together. So it's very consuming, and I have a lot of consuming things in my life right now. Again, thank you guys for that. Not a
Thank
complaint.
you.
Not a complaint.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's from a place of
it
gratitude,
is. It
100%.
is.
Yeah, no, and that's I can totally understand. I mean, it's a lot of work putting these episodes together.
It
You
is.
know what I
I
mean?
can only imagine. I can only imagine.
It's, the scheduling, the editing, the marketing, like, clipping all these things down to make you TikTok content
Yeah,
for it, to promote it. And but now I get to do some really cool things. Like I get to go to the biohackers conference on behalf of the podcast
yeah,
and
that's cool.
like interview some people there, and that's gonna be cool. Um, so stuff that I never like if you would have told me a year ago this is something I'd be doing on a weekend, like meaning going to the conference,
Yeah, yeah.
I'd be like, "What? What is the biohackers
Right,
conference?"
I
First of
know.
all.
It's opportunities that you just don't realize, right? And they just fall into your lap, and it's because of people and because of God, and it's awesome. It really it's
Right.
such a cool experience. Like I would not trade what I'm doing right now for anything else. I genuinely wouldn't. Like I
Yeah.
love what I do. I just wish that I could do more of it, right? Like that's my only complaint is that like I genuinely wish that I could be spending more time making content, spending more time making content, spending more time making I just that's what I want to do, right? I like to
Yeah.
educate, I like to learn, I like to apply, I like to teach, and that's how I'm always going to be, I think. So
Yeah.
we'll get
Yeah.
back to it. We'll fire on all cylinders pretty soon, but it's just, obviously like getting a business set up, especially one that we're trying to scale. It's like
Yeah.
it's a lot. It could be a lot.
Yeah. Made some big leaps this past month starting an
Yes.
affiliate program.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
That was exciting.
It is exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be an affiliate for you.
I'm glad to have you a part of the team. You and Bailey were the two first people.
I know. I know. There we go. I try to keep it worth your while and really hustle for you because I know I was one of the first and I'm
Of
like,
course.
he really rolled the dice here on all the people he could have asked that would have said yes in a heartbeat to be one of the
Yeah.
first.
Well, I
Like,
will
come
say,
on.
Sean was he was basically like the first two people you better ask better be Caitlin and Bailey, and I'm like, of course, absolutely. Like I had a massive list of people that I wanted to add, like I reached out to every single one of them. You know what I mean? And I love that, like, basically, I would say every single person that I asked was like, "Oh, absolutely, like, I really respect you," and I'm like, "Dude, that is like, that's so cool that there's, like, so much." Like, I think there is a lot of great things about this space, aside from all the bogus that we kinda hear day in and day out, like, it's a really cool community of people, and it's, again, a community of people that I would have never met if it wasn't for me just picking up a camera and posting my content, you know what I mean? So, I'm glad that I
Mhm.
did, and I'm glad that people cared enough to get me to where I'm at today, so, yeah.
Um, well, on the last episode, me and Will were talking about how much we appreciate our friendship with you and Bailey. We were like, we feel like we have a really cool friend group
Yeah,
here
it is, it's
in the
cool.
peptide,
It's great.
our little peptide friend group,
Yeah, yeah,
I was like, the other day on my live, I was in my morning live, sometimes I put on makeup, and I was talking about how, like, I just wanna be the Taylor Swift of peptides, and then I was like, "That would make Coach Cam Ed Sheeran."
Yeah, it would. That would be pretty cool. Ed Sheeran.
Coach Cam Coach Cam would be Ed Sheeran, and then we were going through, like, all, like, these pepfluencers and, like, who do we say Will and Julia would be? They would be the Haim sisters.
It's awesome. It is awesome.
Yeah, yeah, we were going through quite a few, and it was like, yeah, my Taylor Swift universe of peptides.
That's awesome. I even heard that some people were trying to make like a freaking peptide music video. Crazy stuff going on, guys. Yeah, lots of crazy stuff going on in this space. I love it. It's awesome. It's a lot of fun. That's a cool group of people. And it's been a pleasure meeting everybody, and especially all the people that interact with live streams and content and stuff like that. Like I met some awesome
Yeah,
people that I
yeah,
genuinely would be friends with in real life, and I think that's so freaking
same.
cool. You know what I mean? But I would have never
Yeah,
met any of these people if it wasn't for this platform. So that's the cool part. Like whenever we go and do meetups at conferences or just events in general, like that is so cool because it's connections that you would have never made if you weren't in this space. So that's it's a great time. It really is.
speaking of which, we're gonna do a meetup at a conference, in October
Yes,
the
yeah.
17th
Yep.
in Dallas. The I think they call it the Glow Up Rodeo, but
Really?
it's
Is that the
yeah.
location?
No, the location is
Oh,
the
the conference is
AT&T.
called the Glow Up Rodeo? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, and
Wow.
it's yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Should be
yeah.
in Fort Worth. I don't know why they're doing that in Dallas, but whatever.
And,
Yeah. Like
yeah.
Fort Worth is the rodeo. Like that's where you go. Like that's where the stockyards are, you know. That's where
Yes.
all the bull riding stuff goes down. So
Yeah. So, me, Ryan, who's now also your affiliate, and Aunt Mary are all very excited to meet you and your
yeah,
fam.
it'd be great. It'd
Yes,
be a good
it's gonna
time.
be awesome. Yeah, it'll be fun. So, anyway, I guess we are at time now, so this was cool. This was cool,
This was great. This was great.
as always, and, this was fun jumping from topic to topic, talking about, pepper myths. I had fun busting myths with you, Cam.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. No, we busted many, and I think that it was definitely. I mean, I think we put a couple good things to rest, and hopefully, it's not going to be the last we hear of it. But for the people watching, they probably learned a thing or two, and they can now rest at ease. These myths have been busted. But yeah,
These
I
myths
appreciate you having me on.
oh,
It was a lot of fun.
myths have been busted.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
taken out,
yeah,
done. It was
done.
fun.
They're gone. Yeah,
I'm already
thank
looking
you.
forward to the next one. Whenever you want me back on, just let me know. I'm happy to be a fill-in for people or whatever the case
Yeah,
might be. Just let me know. I'm always happy. Just got to try to pencil you in. I know obviously like it was a freaking nightmare trying to get me on last week.
no, it's
And
fine.
we made it work. So I'm glad that I was
We
here.
did.
And if like I said, you know, if you want to have me back at some point, shoot me
I
a
do.
text. I'm happy. I'd love to come back, but
I do want you back at some
good. I'm
point.
glad to
Yes,
hear
for
it. I'm
sure.
glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm still looking for, because 2 of my dream episodes are nootropics and bioregulators.
yeah. Yeah.
So, let me know if either of those interest you. I'm trying to find, like, someone who's super excited about those
Yeah.
things to talk about, and I know you love a good nootropic.
Of course, yeah. No, I'm happy to do a little conversation on that. You know, maybe we might be able to combine them kind of into a full. You could maybe you might want to keep them separate, I guess, for the sake of content. But you could always combine them because I don't know how much we'd be able to get into in terms of both, right? Because there's a lot of
Right,
very
right,
out there nootropics, and quite frankly, I haven't done a ton of digging into some of those crazy ones because it's like, I mean,
right.
who's using them? It's like the most niche compounds on the planet, but there are some really great ones, and we can cover those, and we can do that for sure. But
Yeah,
um,
that'll be a fun one.
heck yeah. Well,
Let's do it.
I'm gonna go eat some dinner. This was
Mm,
absolutely freaking wonderful. I do appreciate it.
this was.
And you
Yeah,
have a great rest of your night. And I will be seeing you in
you
a
too.
future stream for sure, or future podcast. Yeah,
Yes. Alright, if not later, but
absolutely.
or sooner.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I'll catch
Yeah.
you guys. Thank y'all. It was fun.
Alright,
Bye. Take
bye.
care.
Thanks, Cam.
Yeah.
Alright, Cam and I can yap. We can yap. It's what we do, you know? It was nice to catch up with him. I know Fort Worth wants to kill me, and I know our editor, DJ, wants to kill me because we went over 2 hours, but I think you guys will appreciate the conversation. So, like, I know Cam and I can yap. We can yap. Guilty as charged, you know? We filled 2 hours, but what I really do wanna know, though, is what my good friend Fort Worth thinks in Fort Worth's talkback.
So I really enjoy having Cam come on these podcasts. I really do because I learn a lot more every time he does. And then, I like this podcast as well because you guys really, really talk about the elephant in the room with a lot of these topics that came up. The stall myth that more Reddit is not better. It doesn't equate to having more weight loss. Um, and then I like how he always touches on like before you do anything else, these are the steps you should take to get there. Before you decide to want to put up 100 more milligrams of Retta, what do? You find the root cause, which is what one of those things that I did like. A lot of myths were busted in this podcast, and I really enjoyed the two conversations. That's why it was long. It was something because there's a lot to be able to touch on that people out here need to know. And this still holds true for me. Okay, guys, you got to rewatch the whole thing again because he gives a lot of information really quick. Um, but it's a lot of good information as far as what we need to know and where, and give you really a perspective of how much more research we should be doing before, like the MOTS one. I didn't know. I didn't know that there's a real thing. You could take too much and cause, a real bad reaction because, like you said, the site injection reaction is already there. So I get that part. It really hits into perspective that we should be doing more research, that we always start low and try to titrate slow. So, the end of the day, those are my thoughts for you guys. Please listen to it. Please take advice of people who are actually looking out for you, unlike a lot of people who are out here giving you information that they're regurgitating from somewhere else that they heard it of, instead of actually understanding the science behind it, and letting you know what the real risks are of these compounds, because there are a lot of real risks. So that's one of the reasons why I got into the space. I stayed in this bubble here with CDJ, because she was really knowledgeable. She understood. She explained it very well, and it really like a lot of us, we kind of think about it like, who do we connect with the most? And then as we evolved, you start learning more, and then the people that are actually looking out for you instead of just trying to sell to you. So I love the Pepper fam. I love what CJ and Coach Cam both do together, because they really look out for the Pepper fam. So this was one of those episodes that I'm glad that you touched on, because it touches on a lot of negativity in the space, plus a lot of bad information that is out there. So that is my feedback for this episode. Is really, please really listen to what Coach Cam and CDJ have to say, because they're one of the few people who are actually looking out for you and want you to be able to uh, research more than just sell to you.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. And I mean, Cam makes me feel like I should be doing more research. And he really does. And I take classes in this, and I'm like, man, I feel rusty talking to you.
Right? I mean, I feel like he is always, I mean, he's busy man, and he's always, listening to TikTok, to the internet. I think he's always listening. And then when he listens and he's like, that can't be true, he really digs into it. because he wants to be able to provide you guys with information and then debunk a lot of these things that you're being told that may be true or may be outlandish, and you should not listen to other people's advice. So that's the one main reason why I stick around in the community, why I listen, why I learn, and why my approach to researching really took a little bit of a slow down before I blasted off again, because I mean that quad cardinal is just beautiful. But one of those things that he mentioned, like L-Carn, 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 and I'm like, all right, I'll try L-Carn. Orbit Zen is great to be able to recover. Not only that, it has KPV, and then the Wolverine. That's another one that I still have in my stack. So, and then just learning about MOTS-c, because I still have not done MOTS-c, and it was one that I wanted to try that I already have, and I think I'm going to now give it a chance that I've learned a little bit more on how I should research with it.
Oh, yeah. You love a good mitochondrial pep. If you're doing Sloop 5 amino to not do MOTS, I mean, that's like leaving the mustard off the hot dog.
No, that's true, huh? No, that's my next research. Now that I feel like I have a lot of info.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we did a whole mitochondrial episode.
Yeah, and the thing is, I still learn more.
Yeah.
Just saying, like he even hit on that this time, and I'm like, oh, okay, so don't blast it. Got it.
Don't blast it. No. You know, it's got to go. Be nice and easy.
Yeah.
Like you
So I
said,
appreciate,
keep it simple, stupid.
and that's why I appreciate a lot of the information that you guys give. Like I said, you guys keep it uh dumbed down, but at the same time, you're looking out for everyone in the community, which is why I stick around, while I'm here, while I'm helping grow this side of the space, and then staying with just this circle, because how real you guys are, how humble you guys are, and how nice, and like you really do care about us and what we're doing.
Yeah. Especially like, when you arm people with real science, it's like harm mitigation. You know what I mean? It's like helping people be as safe as possible. Oh, hey. It's like helping people research peps in a way that is going to change their lives for the better, you know?
Okay.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, this has really changed my life. Like, healthiest I've ever been, more energetic than ever, and my mind is clearer, and this has helped me really take off, not just for my family, but like everything else that I do. I even joined
Mm.
a softball team because
I
I can actually run now.
I thought it was softball for your kid. I did not think it was you playing softball.
Yeah, yeah. Me and my wife both joined softball.
That's so
Which
cute.
we joined a co-ed softball team, because I do want to be able to show my kids, because I do make my kid play football. And the little one plays t-ball, and I want to be able to show them that, set an example for them that we can do it too. And I used to be able to do it at a high level before, I
Mm.
shot up to 300 pounds, and now I'm back. I'm back, like from
Mm.
20 again. I was out there killing it today. I was like, man, it feels good. It feels
Yeah,
good to be able to move around, to run around, to feel light, to feel like I used to back in my 20s.
that's awesome.
I can't pull all-nighters anymore. Maybe, I don't know if there's a pep for that one, but I definitely can can hang
No,
out in the field.
nothing replaces good old-fashioned sleep.
This is true. We need that recovery.
You need that recovery. All right, Pepper fam, that's a wrap on today's episode. As always, never pay retail. I love you for being here. I really do appreciate you spending this time with me. And now that you know, always do more of what makes you happy. And I'll see you on the next one. The views expressed by our guests are their own. Neither Caitlin Jones, Fort Worth, CDJ Peppers LLC, nor Rolling with the Tides endorse or verify any claims made by guests. This content is for educational purposes only and is not medical advice. Hey Pepper fam, you can head to cdjpeppers.com for educational resources on peptide research, including vendors, experimental context, and reconstitution references. I'm a paid partner of many companies, so I may earn a commission if you use my code CDJ or my links. Products are for research purposes